events and everything, although the men are in there too, right alongside, but there's all kinds of festivals that they have there, and events and fundraisers and everything all throughout the week, and throughout the year. And so, their argument that all it was Sundays, and there won't be any business on Sunday, so it's not really going to affect if there's trucks going, because it'll be during the week. So that, we said, no, there's stuff going on all the time, and it's not safe for the kids that attend, and it's not safe, well, it's just, you don't want to be basically facing the loading dock. So the other thing that was agreed upon was they moved over by the Japanese Church of Christ, moved that border over a little bit, and they put greenery there around the edge, and then they built a little Japanese garden. That was not just for the Japanese Church of Christ, but for Japan, to keep that flavor there. And then they also put greenery on the wall, so it didn't look like this massive giant wall. So they did do that, but since it blocks the sun, in the wintertime, that parking lot is just like an ice rink. That parking lot and the courtyard to the Japanese Church of Christ, it never gets that sunlight that thaws it out, so it has impacted it. And then we were able to get it named Japantown Street, and then we're still able to have the festivals there on the street. And anyway, so
how long ago did this developer actually buy the rest of the land?
Well, they didn't buy the rest of the land. No, they were trying to get it.
They're trying to get it.
Yeah, so
because I'm not sure exactly what the situation is.
Yeah, so they were trying to, and I don't know all the legalities of it, but they were trying to get it, in fact, they were trying to get the churches actually to move, basically, so that they could just develop all that space. So that was the goal. So anyway, and now they're trying to build a multiple level, and I don't know how many levels it will go up in the parking lot across from the church, but their garbage basically will be facing the church, and so basically it'll shut off. That first south will basically be, nobody will want to go down it. First of all, and what we really wanted was to, develop, to save that Japanese, our Japanese heritage and culture in that space. Somehow it would be, we've always wanted to maybe have a museum there, or, shops or whatever, around there. But first of all, it takes money. But second of all, those developers want that property. It's prime property right there.
And have they actually communicated with your community at all, or is it just again the same thing where they're just doing things without?
Well, they were doing things without, but just with the business owner. With the landowners. That there's a parking lot there. So that's their business. They own that parking lot. But there are certain things that impact the churches, both churches and the community. So now they're involved with that whole process. So whenever there's hearings, members of the Japanese Community Preservation, it's called the JCPC group, that started right when they wanted to do that first, when they were trying to expand it, when they expanded that last time, this group formed, and they were able to get them to make these concessions. Well, that group is still together. So they've been meeting, they've been going to the hearings and trying to make it so that it'll work out for everybody. So we'll see what happens on that. I'm not really up on the latest on that, but I don't know what your project will entail.
Well, so this is basically like my thesis. We call it a professional project, and the way that they've structured it is that we find a client in any area that is of interest to us, and then we basically ask them what can we do as students, as future professionals, to support you in whatever way. So
Uh-huh.
that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. Like,
Okay.
what would be the best? What can I do? You know, to support the community, like, and not just for my project, but really, what can I do?
Yeah.
So that's basically what I'm trying to
Yeah.
understand.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That is great because, and this has always been my thought on this whole thing, it's not just the Japanese community, but because of the location, you know, the
Mhm.
railroad stations were there, and that's where all these immigrants from all over came.
Yeah.
You know, due to the mining and due to the railroad
Mhm.
workers. In fact, here in the library, we have a lot of records of all these miners and railroad workers and other laborers, farmers and whatnot,
Mhm.
that came to this valley way back in the 1800s
Mhm.
and early 1900s to work and eventually settle. But what people don't realize is that this valley was more diverse than anywhere in the world. And I've heard this from several
Yeah.
researchers
Yeah.
that come from all over the world, and they tell us there was no place on earth like it because
Mhm.
of the mining and the railroad workers.
Wow.
And they said that virtually every country was represented in this little valley
Mhm.
that you think is not diverse at all. It really, really was. Well, it just seems like we should capitalize on that, you know,
Mhm.
our diversity. And so there's a group that's trying to, in fact, they've asked me to be on their committee for the Pioneer Park.
Mhm.
They're trying to have they're trying to develop that. I forgot the name of the Pioneer Park Coalition or something. I don't know the official name
Okay.
right now. We haven't even met once yet. They're just,
Okay.
at least on my end, they just asked me to join it. But they're trying to build a space within Pioneer Park that has the history and everything, because
Mhm.
it wasn't just the Mormon pioneers, it was the Chinese, it was the Italians, it was the Greek,
Mhm.
it was the Latino, everybody. I mean, that
Yeah.
Pioneer Park is not just a park, it
Mhm.
is it's not only, it represents immigration of all,
Mhm.
of everybody. And so I think now is the time to capitalize on that and show that this is what this valley is made up of.
Yeah.
And Third West should be an ethnic corridor. You know, it should, because there was a Greek town
Mhm.
where the Salt Palace, well, not the Salt Palace, where the Vivint Center is.
Yeah.
I still call it the Delta Center.
Mhm.
There was a very strong Latino community there. There was a
Mhm.
Guadalupe Center there. There was the church is still there on the other side. It's kind of like us. We kind of got broken up.
Mhm.
But they had a very active group. And in fact, I worked there when my friend was from Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
And so I worked there. And it was just
Yeah.
a fun place to be. I mean, you know, all the ethnic groups knew each other. And it was just a fun place to be. And boy, I tell you, they had the best food there.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, they had the best chili verde there. Anyway, it was fun. They'd have dances there and everything. But so it's not just the Japanese. It's all of
Yeah.
these groups that are lost. The Greek community, you know, there were Greek coffee houses and you know, the Greek community, the Greek church is still there. The Italians still have a small area there. There were Chinese vegetable gardens around there.
Mhm.
If you look at the old Sanborn maps, you'll see, if you go way back, you can see what was around. I don't know if you're familiar with the Sanborn fire insurance maps.
No.
But what they are is basically it shows for any given year what the city blocks look like, and
Mhm.
it will tell you what the structures are made of, which was, you know, which for us now is interesting because it also tells you which businesses were there.
Mhm.
So they're all online, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look that
Well,
up.
the early ones.
Yeah.
And so you can see what was there.
Yeah.
And it was very diverse. There was a plum alley, you know, where the
Wow.
Chinese were. They did for the Chinese just recently, you know, with the big Eccles Center that they just built.
Yeah.
Plum Alley kind of ran parallel well, it was kind of in that area there.
Mhm.
And they've put up historic plaques there.
Okay.
But I wish they would have kept more of that Chinese flavor of the old, you know, what it was like
Right.
way back. I mean, there, you know, my mother, when she grew up, you know, without a mom,
Mhm.
and her dad ran a restaurant actually right down at the end of Regent Street at the time. So she would have to walk by herself down
Mhm.
these streets all by herself late at night because her dad worked in the restaurants. But there was one area that was kind of a red light
Mhm.
district area.
Okay.
And she knows. She says I didn't understand it then, but there were these ladies that would sit out on the steps.
Mhm.
And she says, I know that they watched over me because I never got assaulted or
Yeah.
kidnapped or anything, and they were always real nice to her and
Yeah.
would say hello to her. And she thinks that they actually were watching over her because
Mhm.
they'd see her every day walk all by herself, and she
Mhm.
was just a little
Yeah.
kid in elementary school walking by herself. So, you know, that whole red light district, and they had opium dens and
Yeah.
stuff there too. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so the whole the colorful side
Mhm.
of Salt Lake, I don't know. I just wish there was some way to show that there were all these different groups.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause they had restaurants there, they had shops. My mom's best friend was Chinese, and so she would spend a lot of her time down Plum
Mhm.
Alley, and so that, you know, just a lot of great people and friends that lived
Wow.
there too.
I mean,
so.
the city would be so different.
Wouldn't it be?
If this was all here. It just changes the
I
entire
know.
dynamics of
I
it.
know.
It's,
And wouldn't that be beautiful though?
yes,
to
it would be amazing.
just go-
I mean, like, so I actually was born in Chicago, and I moved here when I was 10 years old, and I pretty much grew up here now. But I mean, like, I didn't know all this diversity like
Yeah.
existed. And when I found out about Japantown, I actually went to the women's conference that they have at the Union Building every year
Oh.
last year. And so I don't remember her name, but she was one of the guest speakers, and she was Japanese, and she talked about Japantown, and I was like, what? Like, I had no idea. So it that narrative needs to be revived for sure.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, you know, and to remove all of that culture and these communities, just to put a conference hall and
yeah.
a parking garage.
Yeah,
You know, it
it's-
just doesn't make sense. They should have put that further out somewhere.
Right.
But not right in the heart of the city.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I just think the city just totally missed the boat
Mhm.
on how, I mean, this would just be the most amazing place of
Yeah,
all.
it would have everything. You know, it has
Yeah.
nature, it has culture, it has everything
Yeah.
all in one, and the city could have used that as an asset.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah. Well, and the other thing, I mean, even just thinking about what they did to Main Street, we have here in Special Collections all these beautiful old pictures of Main Street
Mhm.
and all this amazing architecture.
Mhm.
And then when they wanted to put the mall in, they just wiped out the blocks and
Yeah.
put the City Creek Mall in.
Wow.
You know, and so now it doesn't even look like it could be anybody's city now.
Mhm.
It's just a city with a mall.
Yeah.
You know, and luckily they fought to maintain that bank, that's the
Mhm.
Wells Fargo thing.
Mhm.
It was gonna be gone too. But they just cleared it.
Yeah.
And it's like, our city has no character anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
they did leave the facade of ZCMI, the old
Right.
ZCMI that is now Macy's. But
It's
other than that,
placeless. Yeah.
it could
Yeah.
be any city.
Right.
It's not, it doesn't have any of the flavor of, and if you look online and look up Shipler,
Mhm.
Shipler was a photographer that did a lot of our old Salt Lake City photos.
Mhm.
And you just look at that beautiful architecture and all those, everything that was happening, it was just amazing. And they, you know, so that was not an ethnic thing, it was just
Yeah.
a business thing.
Just, yeah. I mean, it's always
And-
about power and money,
yeah.
so.
So, I mean, you know, it's like the city really has just missed it.
Mhm.
You know, we've just, I don't know, it made me really sad.
And I know that Salt Lake has a, what is it called? The Preservation and Historic Society, is that correct?
Yeah.
And are they at all like involved or interested in any of these types of discussions?
You know, I'm sure they are.
Okay.
I mean, you know.
I'll have to look into that.
But right now, and the person you should talk to really is Janie Iwamoto. She's senator for District 4.
How do you spell your name?
Jani, you pronounce it Janie.
Janie, okay.
Iwamoto, Iwamoto, and she's right now running again for re-election.
Mm-hmm.
But she's on this committee to to preserve Japantown,
Okay.
or what's left, and try to have a say in what is developed around there, so that we can, maintain some of this flavor there.
Yeah.
Because right now the developers want to have the Japanese church and the Buddhist temple own some of the property across the street that's now parking, and these developers want that land.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they're still fighting that and still trying to negotiate, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, basically, something's going to be built there. I mean, it's their property, whatever they're doing, but we're just hoping that they can, rather than make us their back door, where nobody will want to come down our street and basically kill off the rest of us.
Yeah.
Try to incorporate it in, like move the garbage truck to the inner part of the block,
Mhm.
because they're going to put it in inner street
Mhm.
there. And we only have the small length of street,
Yeah.
presence. And if you put the garbage on that side, across from the
Mhm.
church, nobody's going to want to be there.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so you should talk to Janie Iwamoto.
I'll definitely do that. Thank you.
Yeah, she's busy with her campaign, but this
Great.
is something that's near and dear, close to her heart.
Yeah.
And, the more people that we can get interested in preserving it, because it isn't just a Japantown issue. It's really
It's
our
larger than that, yeah.
It is. So, yeah, Judge Raymond Uno, he's also been involved with saving it as well.
Mhm.
So, anyway, well, let me. Like I said, I don't know.